Yesterday I was talking about koan number 41 from this gateless barrier or Mumunkana. Today I take number 35, the case number 35. I read so I gave a teisho talk a few months back. I wrote it down also. Ritish is collecting some of these talks and putting it in a book form. So, Master Goso asked a monk, Seijo and her soul are separated. Which one is the true Seijo? I have given talk on this koan very often. It's very interesting. Seijo and her soul are separated. Which one is the true Seijo? This is supposed to be a Chinese legend. It's a story. It runs like this. There was in a village a girl by name Seijo. She was in love with her cousin. And her father sort of, even encouraged them, of course, sort of humorously, when they grow up, they can get married and so on. And so they were very much fond of each other. They grew up. But then the father decided to give her in marriage to another young man. He was supposed to be a government official. So he thinks of sort of status and so on. And of course, the cousin was heartbroken. Seijo also was heartbroken, but they couldn't say no to the father. Father's word was command. And so then the cousin told Seijo, I cannot see you married to another man and live in the same village. I am going to faraway country. There was supposed to be a river. He took the boat and he was crossing the river in the evening. And then he saw Seijo running along the bank. And then he came back to the bank and then she jumped into the boat and said, I too shall come with you. I cannot live without you. So they went to a faraway land, had lived some years, had 2 children. But she was still feeling guilty. And also the boy was feeling sort of, he had gone away from all his the morals and habits and the customs of his people. So they decided to come back and get reconciled. And so they crossed the river and the cousin told Seijo, we don't know what mood your father is. Wait here. I will go and see your father and ask forgiveness and then I will come and take you. And so he went to the father-in-law, fell down at the feet of father-in-law, said, please forgive me for taking your daughter away. And the father-in-law looked at him and said, what are you talking nonsense? The day you ran away, my daughter Seijo got ill. She couldn't talk, she couldn't walk, but she's fully conscious. She's bedridden in the house. He said, no. Your daughter has been living with me and we have got 2 children. I will go and fetch her. He ran towards the river bank. And the father went into the house. Yes, the daughter is lying in bed, unable to walk, unable to talk, but she is fully conscious. And the father told her, Seijo, your cousin who had disappeared long ago has come back. And then he tells me a tall story that you are waiting at the river bank. And then he has gone to bring her. The girl who couldn't walk and couldn't talk jumped out of bed, ran towards the river bank. The other girl came. Both met together, embraced, and became one. And that's the story. And so it is a sort of a very psychological story. And so the Zen Master takes this case, the students must have known this story. So takes this case and says, there are the 2 Seijos. Who is the true Seijo? Tell me. Who is the true Seijo? What will you say? So who is the true Seijo? You see, we can talk about psychological things, many sides, you see. Also, we are not one single person. We have got many roles, many sort of selves. You say maybe hero, heroine, officer, or employee, or a servant, father, mother, daughter, son, or beggar, or sinner, or saint. We are playing so many roles, so many selves. Who are you truly? What is your true role? How do you manifest yourself? The master is not asking a psychological thing, you see. He is not, of course, perhaps they didn't talk about psychology in those days. He is not talking about psychological things. And he says, show me your true self. You are playing many roles, many selves. Who are you truly? Show me. That is the question. How will you show me yourself truly? How will you show your true self? That is the question. And so I talked about yesterday about the emptiness and so on, you see, manifesting emptiness. Awakening is, I think I mentioned yesterday also, but anyway, let me repeat. Awakening is something like taking a leap, or usually Zen will talk about dying, great death, dying to yourself and coming back to life. That is awakening. Dying to self means your old self, your old habits, or your way of looking at life completely changed radically. It is a new world awakening. But of course, this can come gradually, can grow on you, or could be sudden. Sudden is not really exactly sudden, you see. Only thing is, suddenly you realize that is it. So awakening is always somehow sort of conversion, turning over, you see, or we can say in the Zen says death. Death to your old world, old self, and being reborn. And so you let go yourself and are reborn. And in that, how do you realize yourself? That you must manifest yourself in the new form, new self, here and now, you see. I wrote an article, you can read in one of my books, metaphoric process, you see. Awakening is a metaphoric process. I quote some authors, they talk about how it is a sort of metaphoric process, new way of looking at life and so on. It's very interesting. When you've got time, read that. And so awakening is awakening to emptiness. Emptiness, awakening to emptiness is dying to yourself, letting go yourself, and then coming back to life. That's an important point. Coming back to life, the world has become new, you see. A new vision, new sort of reality. So it's not the old world in a sense. Of course, the old world will come back again and again. But again, you are sort of a new person. And in this koan meeting, you see, form is emptiness, emptiness form, we say very often, you see. Form does not mean something like a tree, mountain, and so on. Form simply means our ordinary life, living, acting. That is a form, you see, not simply sitting somewhere there, you see. Sort of expressing yourself, acting. Actually, here in this koan, you have to learn to act. There are two people, you see. How do you act? How do you come forth, you see? And, like, for example, I quote for Nansen killing the cat. Nansen, the two groups of monks are fighting over a cat. Nansen catches hold of the cat, takes a knife. Monks, if you say a safe word, Zen word, I will save the cat, or else I will kill. That simply means not killing the cat. You are standing on the brink of life and death, and you have to take a leap. That is the point, you see. That is what's the challenge. It is here, you see. And so, come to a new world and a new sort of reality and vision. And I would like to quote also, I already quoted in the previous articles, one Jungian psychologist, Kukenbull Craig, actually is talking about marriage. Even marriage, it talks about it can be sort of well-being or salvation. Salvation he doesn't use in the Christian term. In general, well-being means, well-being means you are well psychologically or physically or even intellectually, even morally, you are well. You are happy, well-being. And well-being you can get in therapy or even government can give you welfare, And so well-being, you can all give well-being. We can find well-being. So physically, mentally, morally, all those things, well-being, you are happy, well-being, settled, your problems are solved. But salvation, what does salvation means? It's not exactly Christian meaning, but of course it involves, but much more than that. Salvation is you are facing your darker side, not simply darker side, facing your death, facing evil. That is a sort of salvation. How do you come to solve these things? You cannot solve. You have to struggle with evil, struggle with death, struggle with the darker side of yourself. You cannot simply solve these things. Therapy, you can talk about solving, giving well-being, ordinary therapies. But salvation, you can't, It's not. But of course, it is a process going on. You are finding, somehow, but still you go on. But as Jesus said, Jesus says, when you enter into heaven, maybe you can lose your eye or hand or something. You will be always wounded. You will be wounded when you come to salvation dimension. And so that is a sort of conversion we talk about. Also, I quote, in the Christian conception, salvation is not completely obtainable in this life. Sin and death burden us continually, as does the eclipse of God or our backsliding from Him. Salvation involves the question of life's meaning, and this question can never be ultimately answered. For Buddhists, nirvana means salvation, but before a person can begin to strive for nirvana, he must be shaken by the specters of illness, old age, and death, and so on and so on, And so that is sort of struggle. And so when you come to awakening, it is a sort of turning over. Turning over also it means, you're going through your darker dimension, going through evil, going through death, going through all these things. And so it's not that sort of course, when you will come also to peace. But peace, it's not like ordinary peace, It is always sort of struggle and so on. Like, yesterday I said, Bodhidharma, bring your mind, I give you peace. And he has to struggle. And he can come and then give sort of peace. Now, I would talk, like the vertical dimension, horizontal dimension. Vertical dimension is what I talked about yesterday. You sort of awaken to the self, which is no self, unattainable self. And also you awaken to the dimension, the world is yourself. And also, especially awaken to the dimension, sort of the infinite light. That dimension, that is actually healing. Sort of liberating and bring salvation for us. That is a vertical dimension if you talk. But the horizontal dimension is, it has to be with each other, particularly human beings. It is sort of, Buddhism talks about interdependence. They all sort of penetrating with each other. We cannot be standing alone. That's a horizontal dimension. But particularly, Buddhism usually talks about it neutrally, as if not persons, as if you are interdependent with the trees, earth, and so on. No, primarily interdependence means intersubjective. Persons, you are meeting the other. Only in terms of the other calling you, you can be I, you can be yourself. And so it is interpersonal, intersubjective. And the world as objective is given in interpersonal dimension. You see, maybe it's a little complicated for you. Very simply, only from I and thou, I and we, interpersonal dimension, the world is the world. Otherwise, the world is not object. You see, the world is given to us intersubjectively. This is a horizontal dimension, you see. And in this horizontal dimension, there are many koans also on this, like Kyosan asks Sansho's name and so on, you see. But particularly this dimension comes in master-student relationship. You see, so many koans will call, disciple, yes, yes, master, and so on, you see. All the time, the master calls you and you respond. That's a practical dimension. And then, what does it also mean? You respond totally, selflessly. At the same time, don't forget, the other is other. You see, perhaps theoretically it doesn't talk very much. The other is other. You can't absorb the other totally. Of course, you are open completely to the other. Let the other enter you. But you can't totally swallow the other. The other is always other. Remember that, you see. So these two dimensions, vertical dimension, I'm explaining, you see. First of all, awakening is only dying and awakening, but I am trying to help you to sort out things. Vertical dimension, emptiness is yourself. That is a vertical dimension. You live and then move and so on. But the horizontal dimension, you meet otherness of the other, you respect. And so I am going to talk about this koan. You see, here the vertical dimension, you see, how do the two girls meet? Who are you truly? That is a vertical dimension. But also horizontal dimension we have to realize. What is a horizontal dimension? Perhaps you have not seen the story. You see, the father has promised Seijo to that young man. And now he changes. He has sort of taken away his promise. And he has betrayed her. It's a betrayal. You see, the father has betrayed the girl. He has promised, and they go on happily with the promise. They are building a world, wonderful, and so on. Suddenly, the whole world collapses. You see, no more. The boys' dreams are shattered. The girls' dreams are shattered. There is no more. You see, the promise is gone. And see, he doesn't keep the promise. This is a betrayal. And the father betrayed the girl. What about the girl? She also in a way betrays herself. How? Not only father betrays her, she also betrays herself. She does not stand true to her own self. The father's love and promise protect her from her own heart's ambiguity, instability and treachery. Our hearts are ambiguous, treacherous. Don't think we are so steady. It is by the promise that our heart can be steady. Do you see? Remember, it is the other's promise that our hearts, in that power, our hearts can go on steadily. See? Okay. The father's love and promise protected her from her own heart's ambiguity, instability and treachery. Now she takes flight from herself into depression of an impotent, muted rage, which robs her of her strength to stand on her own feet and the power to express her voice. There's no voice. And she can't stand on her own feet. And she betrays herself. She loses herself in the false comfort of dreams and fantasies. She wanders in a dream world, building castles in the air, so to say, and so on, you see. But still, when somehow there is something keeping her alive, maybe guilt feeling or some strength, something. And so when her lover comes, somehow, suddenly her love and her life flares up, comes on. I quote some quotations, very nice. One James Hillman, he is also Indian. It says very nice. He's got a very wonderful chapter on betrayal. I quote only a bit, We can be truly betrayed only when we truly trust. Trust and the possibility of betrayal come into the world at the same moment. Can you imagine? Trust and betrayal come together, you see. Only when you are trusting, you can be betrayed. Otherwise, you will not be betrayed. So, trust and the possibility of betrayal come into the world at the same moment. Wherever there is trust in a union, the risk of betrayal becomes a real possibility. And betrayal as a continual possibility to be lived with belongs to trust as doubt belongs to a living faith. And so on, you see. And also in the Bible it says, scandals must come, you see, in a sense. You can't avoid scandals. Scandals means actually betrayal. Okay. And just I go on. However, the danger of being betrayed and losing trust can lock one into revenge, denial, cynicism, self-betrayal, and paranoia, you see. And then Hillman goes on. The final integration of the experience may result in forgiveness by the betrayed, atonement by the betrayer, and a reconciliation, not necessarily with each other, but reconciliation by each to the event. Each of these phases are bitterly fought and suffered experiences which may take long years of fidelity to the dark side of the psyche. And so life is like that. We are not living in Eden. Don't forget that. We are living in the imperfect world. And how do we sort of, I talked about, sometimes you may think once you are awakened, everything is no problem anymore. It's wonderful and so on. No. You see, even then, you will have all the problems and sufferings and so on. But the only thing is, with what attitude, what view, what vision you are looking at experiencing. And promise is a mark of personality and freedom. Forgiveness is gracious gift of the other, free one from being locked up in fatalism. You see, promise can be broken. Betrayal can happen. But betrayal can be sort of undone only by forgiveness. And forgiveness you cannot give to yourself simply. Forgiveness has to come from the other. And what does it mean? It's a gift. It's a grace. I very often talk about emptiness as mystery. Mystery, that's a graciousness. That is a dimension, you see. It's a gift given to us by the other. There is one philosopher, Robert Spearman. He talks about very nicely. Also, let me quote. Many quotations I give. Okay, to look guilt, not fallibility. Fallibility means we can fail, but guilt is purposely done something wrong to the other. You see, to look guilt in the eyes means to want to overcome it. And that is possible only with the help of others. Clinging to one's own guilt, as well as the attempt to exculpate oneself, remain in the circle of self-preservation, in the circle of, that is the way I am. Then you are condemning yourself. Oh, I can't do anything, that is the way I am like this. You are condemning yourself, you see. And when when one pins another down, in that is the way you are, then the road to freedom is closed off. Others also can say, yes, that's the way you are. Then you are closing the door to freedom to the other, you see. The guilty part is dependent upon forgiveness. The discovery of this dependency is the first step on the return to the truth and not to the self-accusation of the one who emphasizes, I cannot forgive myself that. The same hubris is in the statement as is in the action which he cannot forgive himself for. Of course, no one can forgive himself. One can let oneself be forgiven and accept the forgiveness. The result is gratitude. That is our life, you see. When you talk about interdependence and so on, see, Buddhism very often talks neutrally, mechanically. It's not a mechanical neutral. It's interpersonal. It is sort of relationship. It is sort of, hurting and being hurt and, having guilt and forgiveness. All those things go together. And only through these things, the world also becomes a world. You see, don't forget that. You see, that is our human life. That is a horizontal dimension. But then, as I mentioned, let me repeat also, emptiness, I always, use this phrase, emptiness is a mystery, ultimately. And this mystery is graciousness. And so, we can let ourselves be in this graciousness. Emptiness is sort of embracing us all, you see. We ourselves are part of emptiness. We express ourselves sort of in emptiness, so to say. Form is emptiness, emptiness form. We are also emptiness, you see. We are, should not say also. I am myself. See, emptiness is a self. But that's not simply suddenly coming out. We are going through life like this. But that should be sort of groundless ground. That's a mystery, that's a graciousness we can hold. We can stand and we can sort of offer forgiveness and receive forgiveness and sort of offer promise, receive promise. Promise and fidelity and guilt and forgiveness, these are all human realities. We are living in these things, you see. And sometimes we sort of, simply too much autonomy. I can do my own thing. I will do. No, you can't do all the thing. It will be only shutting yourself, closing yourself in yourself, in your own egoism. This is a being of openness. How are you open? We ordinarily in the koan we say, sound, hear the sound, you are open. And they look at the tree, you are open. This is rather easy. It's not so difficult. This koan practice, you see. But that you are open with your hurt, with your vulnerability, with your fragility to the other, openness to the other, that is not easy. Actually, the master-student discipleship is a little of this type. The master will reject you, will blame you, will condemn you, will praise you. You see, all those things. How do you relate to all those things? And that relationship, of course, you will not be completely broken, you see. And of course, the teacher can hurt you and so on. But still you can come back again and again and then present yourself and so on. But that has to go on to life and much more seriously. Here, master-student relationship, maybe it's not so difficult, even though it is hard. But in life, that's not easy, you see. And we can't always be forgiving also. We can't be always sort of open also, all those things. And so remember, when you are awakened to emptiness, the groundless ground, emptiness, the mystery, this graciousness, it can hold us. And even when you are hurt, when you are failing, when you are betrayed or betraying, and we can come back, and then by the power of this, by this, we can sort of say, yes, I reach out, I go on, you see. That is our new world, new life, new vision, so to say, you see. And the Korean, I quote sort of Korean, they talk about enlightenment, they use this word, kechim, that means brokenness. You see, enlightenment is brokenness. What is the brokenness for them? Our individualism is broken, you see. We are individually closed in on ourselves, you see. And brokenness means we are heartbroken, open, you see. And of course, they talk only very generally, individual is broken. But remember this, our natural love has to be broken, yes. Can you imagine? Our natural love has to be broken and have to be transformed, you see. That dimension. I quote very often also the famous Zen saying, before enlightenment, mountains are mountains, trees are trees. During the enlightenment, mountains are not mountains, trees are not trees. After enlightenment, mountains are mountains, trees are trees. See, during the enlightenment, mountains are not mountains, trees are not trees. You are broken. You are nobody, you see, so to say. And then you come back. Come back to be yourself. But with your broken heart, it's not simply ordinarily closed in. Your ego, your individualism is broken. You are open. And then your heart is open. And then you come to the world, live the world, you see. And so a few things I mentioned, maybe I put up this article on the board. So I can say many more things, but that's enough. Remember this, the vertical dimension, horizontal dimension. But first, foremost, awakening is tying to yourself, tying to our old world, old vision, and being born. And this new world, it's not, of course, it's a beautiful, but at the same time, all these things, you see, our heart has to be transformed. Suddenly, only because you are awakened, your heart will not be completely open, transformed. You have to be relating again and again. Your heart has to be broken open again and again. And so this is our process, our long process. And so that is a Zen practice. And here, as I mentioned also, it's a teacher-student relationship, a little, not very much, comes here little. This sort of relationship, you see, brokenness, and also, promise, faithfulness. Actually, when you commit yourself to the teacher and teacher commits himself or herself to you, it's a promise, you see. And the promise can be betrayed also. And you can also sort of betray yourself. All those things. It's a minor scale, so to say, you see. But here, Seijo, the story is bigger scale, very much, you see. And so finally, I mention also, let me say, you see, yeah. Oh, I forgot where I put it. Okay. The father, the Seijo also has to forgive the father, you see. And the father simply doesn't keep her locked in, you see. Allows herself to go, allow herself to meet the lover and so on, you see. Also his heart is little transformed. And she has to forgive also, you see. And also the boy, of course, the all story, legendary stories, he also sort of has to forgive the father-in-law and receive true Seijo, so to say. The whole story, though fiction, but all these are involved in a way. And so, now ultimately, I talk about a few words, you see. I will say, let me quote. Seijo is yourself. You see, you are Seijo. You see, your self-centered heart and mind have to be broken through, and you have to awaken to a love which stands true to the others and to oneself, even in the midst of all the tragedies, failures, betrayals. A love beyond good and evil, a love that is a great amen, an unconditional yes to self, the other, and the world. It is awakening to emptiness. You see, finally, it is awakening to emptiness. It's not emptiness is not something. It's a groundless ground. At the same time, it is sort of graciousness. You awaken to that dimension. Emptiness is mystery, that's graciousness. This is the ground and the heart of your very self. Can you now tell me who the true Seijo is? Who are you truly? How will you know for yourself when you are awakened to your true self? See, I written out, that's why I read. And so these are the questions, This is a beautiful story. So who are you truly? Who is a true Seijo? Take this, go on. Okay. Take. Maybe Song of Zazen.
The Song of Zazen.
All beings
by nature are Buddha. As ice by nature is water. Apart from water, there is no ice. Apart from beings, no Buddha. How sad that people ignore the need and search for truth of God. Like someone in the midst of water, crying out in thirst. Like a child with a well-feeding woman lost among the poor, wandering in the six worlds. dark path to dark path, lost in the darkest of ignorance. When shall we be free from birth and death? Over the sasan of Maya, it can never be embraced enough. The many paramitas of Dana, Silas, Nebutsus, repentance, sadhana, and so on, all that can cause the sadhana.